been reviewed by Warren. So I think they're in good shape to review.
Right. Right.
Reviewed by Warren? Yes, both have been reviewed by Warren.
No. Was there a delay?
Yeah, I think there was.
Okay.
I was just starting the live stream, that's why.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But right, excuse me, right now, everything's still good. We're fine.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Just making sure. Hmm.
All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. Town Board Workshop meeting, July 18th, 2022, 7 p.m. We're going to be discussing the proposed solar law and the cannabis law. We're going to start off with the solar law.
Do you want us to, maybe we should bring up on our screen just to share it, or do you want to go through it hard copy? You all have hard copy? Or?
We do.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We can. I'll pull it up just for any notes. But yeah, we can. You know, our
Yes.
copies should be the exact same.
So I think we're open to comments from everybody. Again, we had sent this, I don't know, a month or so ago, and then had it reviewed by Warren. I think his final comments are in it. And so it's one that once you've gone through it tonight, we can make any final changes and you'd be in a position to move forward on a public hearing.
I have two things that I noticed. One thing I talked to Sarah about at our meeting a month ago was this whole movement for the Agra solar, like being able to use the solar fields for livestock or whatever else, and that perhaps the height requirement I mean, I don't exactly even know what the requirements would be. Part of it is height requirements. They raise up the solar panels. They have like goats and stuff pasturing under them and different items like that. But I just thought maybe some general language in there about the planning board in the tier 3 being able to accommodate Agra solar combinations with the project. I don't know. My language skills right now are failing me, but
Yeah.
Yeah, the question is on tier 3 then, Taylor. Maybe we should
Right.
go to tier 3, see what we,
Tier 3, yeah, it's a tier 3.
what we say. Because tier 3 is by special permit, so
Right.
let's see.
Yeah.
Tier 3.
Yes. Okay. And we do specifically mention agriculture. Yeah, and for here it is. So the planning board shall review the application. That's 5A under special permit and site plan approval. Impact study for proposed lighting, site security, grading and clearing and vegetation, impacts to rural character, farms, farm structures and ridgelines. So that is where we talk about farms and farm structures. But we could do, I think, Michael, you're saying add some language that allows the planning board to, waive the maximum height or adjust the maximum height if the applicant is doing, agrivoltaic solar installations and can give a compelling reason why they need it to be taller. And that's up to the planning board to weigh the benefits and the negatives of it, the costs and benefits.
yes.
Yeah,
Mike,
maybe,
do you?
maybe
Yep, sorry.
specifically some language that talks about if, so I just walked in on this, I apologize.
Mhm.
But if somebody were trying to actually conduct agricultural operations under the panels, some of the tractors are kind of tall, so maybe to give them a little bit more in height so that they could actually drive tractors and conduct activities underneath the panels.
I think if you just give the planning board flexibility when it comes to agrivoltaic operations, that would give them what they need, and hopefully make it understood that we favor that.
Right,
Right.
it's hard to
Yeah.
anticipate even now what those requirements may be. Things like
Correct, that's
new-
exactly right. So I think flexibility when it comes to the agrivoltaic stuff is really, really good.
Yeah, I think we
Yes.
can do that because this is a special permit to start with. So I think the planning board could be given discretion and then, you know, judge what they're granting in height against
Right.
any impacts on surrounding neighborhoods.
Yep. Yes, that's, I was looking to see where where we have maximum height, we could just add something there. But yeah, either way, I agree with that comment. I think we can add something.
Yeah, I think maybe what we do is find the right place for it here,
Yep.
Taylor. And,
Yes.
yeah, particularly because these are large lot sizes.
Hmm,
What we may want to do is, you know, just give the planning board that flexibility on a large site,
Right.
and these are large sites, so.
okay.
I don't know if
Yeah.
we go into the maximum height in the tier 3 section.
Yeah,
We don't
That's-
give it,
that's what I was just seeing, yeah.
We do
Yeah.
talk about it in the tier 2, which is
in the tier
two and
2, we
three.
have a maximum height, that's right.
I thought we didn't do that because the whole third tier was special permit and going through the planning board no matter what. I thought
Right.
that's the.
That's
reason why
right.
we left A lot of
Yeah.
these things out for tier 3.
right.
Yeah.
So we just keep the general language about flexibility in regards
Yeah.
to accommodating
Agrivoltaic operation.
like Sarah
Yeah.
suggested.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, so
we'll
we
find a
here we
spot.
say it, we mention it twice. We say in C, 5C, the applicant must show how agricultural lands, agricultural soils and vegetations are preserved to the greatest extent possible. You know,
Yeah, that one
solar
though,
and
Taylor,
sensory-
is really about preserving, you know, natural resources. So I think maybe
Right.
we'll put in a, you know, section E maybe, which is specifically granting the planning board some flexibility on agrivoltaic.
Right, so I think something, yeah, like another section, but
Yeah.
in this area, we would say, you know, we would
Yeah.
support, or not, yeah, the planning board may, you know, consider flexibility to,
Well, we'll work out, we can work out
Yeah,
some
we'll work it
wording. We can look out at some, you know, existing texts from other communities, see what we find. And maybe go over it with Warren, and then we can put a section in here.
Yep.
Okay,
Uh,
I guess just any other comments on the solar?
I heard one of the thing I had was, I heard this story. I didn't really track it down too well, but I heard someone talking about it in reference to these large solar fields. I guess something happened down in the Midwest where a tornado came through and like wrecked the solar farm. And there was this large contamination issue like cobalt and everything else spilling out of the cells because everything was so chopped up. Does our bond or whatever we have for decommissioning, do we have to have separate language in regards to that? Like say, you know, if there's some sort of contamination incident happens, a hurricane comes through or a storm, does that have to be separately addressed?
Well, we have that section, as you know, Mike, section 8, which Taylor's brought up on decommissioning. We could, you know, we could put in under decommissioning to cover, you know, catastrophic event. You know, if the solar farm's, you know, destroyed or partially destroyed, that type of thing. Your concern is contamination, right?
Right.
Yeah, let me,
I think that's exactly, yeah, we put a line, you know, section 8B, a decommissioning plan shall address the following: cost of removing, time, you know, to repair any damage, but we could say,
yeah.
we'd add something specifically about catastrophic events and.
I think it might be perhaps even a letter C, Taylor, maybe, you know, on a catastrophic event. Because it is different. Decommissioning is something that's planned, and then catastrophic events. And again, we'll try to get some wording for this.
So whether they have to show they have insurance coverage or a bond, part of the bond.
Well, that's true. Yeah, insurance coverage.
Is that have anything, they have to be licensed by the state, right?
They do.
Is there anything in the state license that
Hmm.
covers something like that?
I'd have to look at the
Okay.
state licensing requirements again, but we can check them on the licensing requirements.
Yep.
The one issue I had brought up last time was and I couldn't find that case that I referenced in Ulster County, I believe it was, but the idea of off-site uses or off creating more than you need. That they were sold or billed as being advertised as turn your meter backwards. In other words, they were going out into the grid if there was a surplus at any one time. And, I don't know if that, the whole idea of off-site uses is that. And then the one thing that I had brought up was a farm who had various parcels, tenant houses and other buildings. And so he was generating on one parcel and actually looking for a credit on the other parcels. So I just don't know how to deal with that, but it is something that, is in there. And again, I'm thinking in terms of this is supposed to be, affecting our carbon footprint. So, rather, we should be encouraging people to take advantage of what they can do. I know that our company is terribly happy with pumping, they're accepting this back, but it is
Yeah.
something.
What I've seen in the past is that it has been partly a negotiation with you, if you will, with the utility company. Sometimes the utility companies are able to do that or, want to do that. In other cases, it's a little harder to do it. We'll have to, we can look into that a little bit. I'd like to get a little bit more information on, what the utility company is going to accept or not.
And going along with kind of what Don was saying in terms of, we're trying to, I think that, carbon footprint, everybody'd like to encourage this. I know that the state uses that 110%. Maybe you guys could look into, what if we change that to 120%?
But it's the whole idea of
I think the word that needs to be looked at,
the offsite.
potential demand. What's the equation for potential demand? So whatever you make it, whether it's 100 or 150, how is the potential demand? What is that equation to get you there? Because let's say somebody wants to build a solar farm on their property before they build the house that they say they're going to build, but they don't actually end up building it. So how do you determine that? That's, to me, is what needs to be defined. That's ambiguous.
Yeah, so I think we'd like to be flexible and encourage people maybe with a little bit more.
Well, my only problem is the idea of you can't use it off-site. So theoretically, you can't pump it back into the distribution system.
They would take it, I think, no matter what.
Yeah, they
No,
do
but I
take
mean,
they wouldn't
we're
pay you
saying,
for it.
you can't in our law.
Yeah, I think,
So what we're saying is that you can't build a
What we're
For
saying
the
is
purpose
that
of
what you're
making
generating cannot be used off-site,
Right.
is my reading of it. And I don't think that's.
There was a state law that said you don't produce X.
I think,
back. I think that's two different issues that we're talking about.
Well,
where
from the
does it say
state's
that?
perspective,
B2B.
Can you turn to B2B, Taylor?
Yes.
Sorry. Well, is that still within tier 3? We're still talking about within tier 3?
I'm back in tier 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
They're just the simplest systems.
okay.
B2B.
2D, right?
B.
E.
B,
So if you do-
section
Yes.
B. Taylor's got B,
Yes.
right?
Got it. From the state's perspective, it's just, I think, tier 1 and tier 2 are meant to go on your house in a residential neighborhood. And so we want to encourage that, but keep, I think and I'm not 100% sure, if you were going to generate 200% of what your house's electrical use is, that's a lot of panels. And so I think that's their perspective, is that 110% is a reasonable amount of panels to have. I'm not sure that you could do all of that just on your roof. Maybe you can, but maybe you have a big house. But
No,
if you were to run
they
everything,
say
it may be roof and
the
yard
percentage-
combination.
the percentage isn't my issue. The percentage is it can't be used off-site. And when I originally was talking about it, if you own 2 or 3 parcels,
Right.
and one could generate for another parcel, and that to me is the definition of off-site. And I just want to be able to kind of be able to look at that and understand how it applies to the particular.
Yeah, again, the state, and I don't want to but I reiterate what Taylor was saying, that the offsite here can be interpreted as being anywhere. I mean, we could limit something to offsite to an adjacent property that the owner owns, something like that. But the whole point of this lower than a tier 3 installation
Right.
was this was going to be a house installation, and doesn't need a special permit and can be approved easily. So that's why the state wrote this in here, that they expect the installation to be roof mounted or ground mounted under the regulations we've written. And yes, you could sell it back to, if you have a surplus to it and the utility company's open to taking back that, you could sell it back to the utility company. But that's different than an installation that is, you're gonna go into the energy business and sell it off-site anywhere in town. So I think that's what we
We're talking about that
probably
now.
want to discuss. That one's a sort of different, that would be more of a tier 3.
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to get into that. I was just trying to get a little more flexibility and say if it's 110%, why can't it be 120? I'm not saying
Yeah.
200%.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I mean, this is from what the New York State guidance is. And we
Right,
can,
right.
we can look it up
It's-
and see what does that matter? What's
Yeah.
the big deal? But just following the state's guidance for
Not a
110.
deal breaker, let's just.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Right.
So, Taylor, I wanted to compliment you in terms of someone, this was my job too, to write all this stuff for a long time, 25 years. And I thought that you did a great job. I was trying to help you on, this would be tier 1. It is, I guess it's in tier 2, I'm sorry.
Okay.
C2B
Yep.
and also in 3, where you talk about, I know what the concern was, within the Hamlet zoning district, planning board shall consider opportunities to minimize visual impact to neighbors and public access.
Right.
And I was wondering what you were trying to get at when you said public access. Was it to try to limit visual impact to neighbors, but also to the public that's driving by or something? And I didn't know if
Yes.
Yeah,
it seemed like that you were struggling there and using public access.
yeah.
We mean the
And,
sidewalk.
That's a good point.
Yep.
And so I wondered if you should say, I don't know, public visual access.
Mhm.
Taylor, I'm not sure. Yeah, now that we're focusing on this,
Yep.
what we were trying to do is simply minimize visual impact, to the neighbors during site plan review. I'm not sure where we picked up that public access.
Yeah, it could be just a typo.
We may
I
not
think
need it. We may-
Roadways or scenic roadways where it's
Yeah.
not necessarily a neighbor there, but it's like a beautiful little
Hmm.
drive or something.
Yeah, it was a
Right.
visual
Oh, I
thing.
see, I see.
I
It's
know
not-
what you were trying to do. We were just
Right.
trying to find, with 8 heads in the room, we thought we might,
Right.
I thought I might, just by asking the question, somebody would come up with something that was really good.
No, you're
Yeah,
right.
so
I mean,
what you were trying to do, Taylor, I think might have been what someone just said on the planning board, and that is
Yep.
to neighbors and also visual impact from, public maybe
Yeah, the public right of way or.
public right of way, right, public right of way or parks or public spaces, you know, we could put that in. And then I would just put a period after it. I think this all requires site plan, so we don't have to say while undergoing site plan review.
Space and right what we can, yeah, I agree. I'll confirm that, but we are in agreement with what you're
And,
saying. is
yeah,
that
and
it's-
I, just to minimize visual impacts to neighbors, yeah, and public space and right of ways, right, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
think-
totally agree. I think that was Rory. It's, you know, we're talking
Yeah.
about your sidewalks, we're talking about a beautiful, you know, vista as you're driving through, you know. And this is, it's, again, it's like it's giving the power to the planning board, but making them consider these views.
Mhm.
Good.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, I like what you had done, Taylor. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. And I need to double check. It's make sure this language is reflected in corresponding sections. So if we say something similar somewhere else, I'll make sure it's right. Yeah, because it probably, I wonder if we say something similar outside of Hamlet. Exactly.
Correct me if I'm wrong, is a farm still wouldn't fall under any of this, right? If farm goes to ag and markets, if they want to put in solar for their operations,
I bet they'd come to the town for a building permit.
the building permit. But as far as this process would exclude farms or not?
You know, I'm not
Well,
100% sure.
Yeah, you mean under the separate ag law?
I don't think they
Special
necessarily
permit
come
five.
for permits.
Put in a-
What do you think, Rory?
I think a farm is obliged to, when they add stuff to the property, to apply for building permit.
Well, I thought we talked about this last time, where we had to go straight to ag markets and it didn't matter, that's what we.
Well, that's what that was,
Yeah,
but I'm not an expert on it.
That's what I thought that
I
we
don't
talked about last time, they went straight to ag markets. That's what I
profess to know.
But in your instance with a farm, I'm saying that might mitigate the set of cases that could happen where, like, you know, because if the farm's doing it, they're gonna just go to ag markets and try to go through this process.
There have been, you know, alternate energy projects. One in Walling stopped, the guy with the horse farm and this windmill. The town still had some say. And I guess that was what the court case was about, whether the town did have a say.
Like, if you could aggregate your 110% allotment among several properties.
Well, that was how you figured
Right.
what your total demand. was much
You know,
bigger.
I think that's, I mean, and so Don, going back to maybe to your question or your example about, yeah, if you're a farm parcel, or maybe you've got a few different parcels. I mean, I think that's a question for you, the town board. You know, the states, as we mentioned, the state sees tier 3 as big installations, and they want to give the town more tools to review and restrict, or, you know, review and influence. But if you want to encourage them, you know, you could, I mean, I guess it's that question. How much do you want to do to encourage, or do you want someone to be able to produce a bunch on one side if they own, you know, if they're an agricultural operation and they own more land somewhere else? Or just treat that as a tier 3 and say, it's still going to be a bunch of solar panels and we still need to do the review and make sure it's not on prime ag soils and all that stuff.
I think it tends to be more of a tier 3. I mean, at least I could speak for the state model. The
Right.
state was saying tier 1, tier 2 is basically, you know, roof mounted. They're the smaller solar panels. They're seeing tier 3 as the, you know, the larger commercial, sometimes commercial, you know, tier, and that's why we made it a special permit. I think where you want to, you know, sell or in a commercial solar operation, you know, selling some of that power off-site or other parts or to other people, I think that would probably be a tier 3, you know, and then the planning board can control that.
Has anyone kept up with the mega projects, which the state basically said, you guys have no say. It's totally up to us, and in fact, it doesn't even have to comply with seeker. Is that still the case?
I mean, from what I understand, those are, it's like a much, I'm not sure about not complying with seeker, but it is a, yeah.
No, that
it's
was
run through the
the
state.
legislation. They didn't even have to do seeker.
Yeah. Well, the state does have
Yeah.
that authority. The state, and the basic principle of home rule is though you do get your zoning powers by grant of the state. So if they want to limit something to themselves, they can do that. They have normally not waived seeker, but in this case, they do have the ability to.
I believe what they just asked for like the town submits like a letter, you know, what do you think about the project kind of thing? They
Yeah,
can throw it in
yeah.
their rubric or not. Pretty much.
Right.
We don't have the spot really big enough. for you. So-
Hopefully.
Yeah.
We don't have the
Right now.
distribution
Yeah.
grid is
Right
not.
now.
Right, yeah, right now.
That's the,
Not in our lifetime.
that's, well, I mean, it depends you know, how, you know, how motivated a company is to to extending the distribution grid in order to handle it, but, you know, as of right now, they probably have to cobble together some properties over in that area right now where to do it. But then again, you have other tracks and other areas where there's no distribution, which could be something.
Does anybody else have anything else on this? All right, let's move on to the cannabis law.
Okay. I think basically from the last time, Taylor tried to make your changes in the cannabis law, and we again sent this to Warren, so I think it's just now a final review for you all.
Yep, and we can do a quick review. And you all remember that it's just retail, no on-premise consumption. It was permitted in the Hamlet Business and Hamlet Main Street. These are the changes we made last time, shown in red here. So all this, yeah, all the text is new. Obviously, there's no adult use retail dispensary. The red text here is the text we changed from our last call. We settled on, so they have to submit their license to be before getting special use permit. We settled on 200 feet from any school, house of worship, or other dispensary. And then I'm not sure who it was, but someone looked up, I think it was the alcohol regulations. It said it's measured from the center of the door to the center of the door, and that's just a standard measurement, so we're gonna leave it. Hours are 8 to 8 Monday through Saturday, and then noon to 5 on Sunday. We said, no drive-throughs, permanent enclosed buildings only. This is one that I thought was a really good change, was that we want to minimize the view, but of, marijuana plants, cannabis, all that stuff, but balance the goal of minimizing views with keeping windows reasonably open and not covered with blinds or paper. I think that's important. I was actually somewhat recently in Portland, Maine, where this is a lot more common. And this is kind of how it is. The things are screened, but you can look in the store. They look like normal stores in a lot of ways. You don't want it. It's not just all blacked out windows, because that no one wants that. Secure storage as number 7. Ventilated, so there's not odors all around the building if people are downtown. And then 9 is a big review by the town police department, including alarms, surveillance. They have to, making sure they keep cameras, name and phone number of a contact. How's the burglars and the drop safe going to be handled? Let's see, down lighting. This was one. Down lighting, so same thing, to be kind of dark sky is what we're going for, dark sky compliant. And then also number 11, how are you discouraging loitering? So, we want to have a nice place, but we don't want you to be encouraging just off-premise consumption. It's a balance. And that's pretty much it. Everything else, one parking spot per 250. This is just standard retail, I believe, in the code. So there's no change in the amount of parking. And just showing that we would, the use table here has it in the HBUS and HMS districts. Any comments or thoughts on that?
Do we know what the state's licensing regulations are? I mean, we're not in conflict with them in any way, are we? Or
No, not as far as we know. We took this, a lot of this we compared to other municipal regulations that have been developed, and also went through this with Warren. So we think that this complies.
Flag and Markets haven't finalized anything themselves, right?
That I don't know whether Ag and Markets have or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Ag and Markets, but I called Office of Management or Office of Cannabis Management. I think it's OCM, because I had these similar questions of like, what I want to make sure what we're proposing is the same as what the state is, and they are still working on their specific regulations.
Yes.
So they haven't published it, and I think these are general. And obviously, if the state comes out, we need to adjust because the state's going to take precedent if it's in conflict here. But I think we're not hyper specific on things. We're giving it the power to the planning board. We do have specific, hours of operations and distances and stuff like that. But I think if there were, and I defer to Frank, but if there were changes, this zoning is simple and straightforward enough that we could make a change to make sure it was in compliance with what the state is saying pretty easily.
Yeah, I think it's worth, it depends on, whether, on the one hand, you could wait for the state, but it might be sometime in 2023. We don't really know. Or you could adopt this, and then, as Taylor said, if the state comes out with something new and there's something in conflict or that you want to change, it's actually relatively easier to amend something that is already in your code. So you could amend it at that point. And also at that point, you might have some observations on someone who has opened, and you might want to make another change here when the state's regs come out based on your own experience.
Is there interest at all in one of the committee to also allow this activity in the agricultural districts? I'm sure we don't want it in our suburban part of Pine Plains, but because I think of the structure here, maybe we're in nowhere else so much. But is there a reason not to allow it outside of the?
Well, we saw this anyway. Our experience in other communities is people are seeing it as a basic retail use. So that if that's why I think we started by treating it, in the Hamlet business zone, and I think you all made a very good comment to expand that to the Hamlet Main Street zone. You might want to, I know one way to do this is such a new area of use and control in New York State. You may want to start small like this and then see how it works. And then if you want to expand it, to agricultural properties, certainly I don't know of a prohibition to do it, but it's like allowing retail uses throughout the town, really.
Rory, I kind of see where you're going, and I'm not sure. You may know more about what the state has said, but if you have obviously a farm store, right? We make farm agricultural products. We can sell them at our farm. Like that makes sense. But I'm not sure what the state has said. If that's even, I'm not sure if the town has opted in to grow and then, or for cultivation. And then even if you do cultivate, I imagine they've got a lot of security. Like it's obviously different than milk, right?
I don't think that you could grow and sell. It's kind of like
Right.
distilleries. They can't distill and have, you know what I mean? Like I don't think
Yeah.
licenses in that. And I think they're doing the same thing with.
And that's,
I'm thinking of it in the context of a farm stand, though, I think I'm thinking of it just like, there's the old dam farm, maybe that new 4 silos place that could serve, but this space really, might be a couple others that are
Okay.
center part of town. But I do think, like what Matt's saying, New York State did create a carve out for craft distillers, cider makers, brewers, and wineries. And I think they'll probably do something in the 18 months in or something for the cannabis. I imagine where if your gross sales are less than 500,000 or $1 million or $3 million, whatever it is, you could possibly participate in a different type of license that didn't have the same sorts of intense requirements. But those might be the types of things that we might see more Pine Plains participating in, or Columbia County. Those might be the types of mom and pop things that are what this new movement in agritourism and where it intersects with cannabis will end up lying, rather than sort of retail establishments and urban centers.
Right, but the retail licenses right now are limited to how many in the whole state?
There's only a few hundred.
Right, it's unlikely we're gonna get more than one if we get one in the town, whoever applies for.
Well, there'll be second rounds and third rounds of
Right.
license releases too, but then at some point there'll be other types of licenses, I think.
Right.
as
But we could
well.
always amend it.
And I would wait
Yeah.
until see what the state.
Yeah.
I mean, the
let's leave
state
it
went
as is.
crazy with alcohol. I mean, we have the perfect example in Pine Plains. Guy spends $1 million and the Department of Agriculture writes a letter to town, says it's a farm stand. It's a freaking $1 million farm stand.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah,
was from the, from the Commissioner of Agriculture. Somebody got to somebody and a letter comes to Pine Plains and says, you can't regulate it. It's a farm stand.
Yeah, I
Well,
tend to
maybe
think,
this is a place to start, and
Yeah.
as
I
was
agree.
just said, maybe wait on that one to
Wait.
see what the state comes out with. They
Right. yeah, I agree. And then I think because if go with what we know, and then, either model, if it is a farm stand kind of model or something bigger, I think we could look at it, just down the road. Because I think the bigger model, Roy, I'm not sure the exact properties you're talking about, but those, if they are more important or bigger properties, then maybe they're going to need more review than a simple, you're just renting space in an existing building, or that sort of thing that's more turnkey after you've proven that you've done some modifications that we're asking for, or building a new building. That's simpler, simpler in my mind.
I think of our town hall here that we're sitting in now.
Well, we're thinking about moving our town hall, not
Right.
with, not with the government offices being.
We're looking for buyers.
Right.
Well, why don't you just rezone this to Hamlet Main Street? It's on the other side of, that's.
Well,
that's
the other thing you could do is
That's a good
you could rezone this in Hamlet of Hamilton.
Hammertown.
Yeah, that's really what needs to happen here.
And this, you have the same permissiveness for Hammertown as you would for our Main Street.
Well, it will be a Hamlet,
It falls in the category.
so it changes the zoning.
Yeah, but this isn't allowed in the other hand, so it's only allowed in business.
I know, but then we can revisit that.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
think-
you'll have some experience, then when you revisit it. I always am worried about, going to a public hearing where, something applies throughout the entire town. And here you've pretty much made this into the Hamlet, the two Hamlet districts, the H Business District and HMS. And I think this is a place, to start. And then, when those state regs come out, it may be a time where you might want to revisit this, and you might want to get broader on this, depending on how your local experience has been. But you'll have it on the books. In other words, people will at least possibly be used to it. Although it will take it'll take some time for some people to open businesses.
We'll see if we get one. May not get one for a long time.
The
Yeah.
craft licenses are gonna be more, such a better thing.
Right, I mean, that's different traffic too. That's kind of
Whole
weekend,
different thing,
you know, not like
This-
heavy.
Yeah, I would have to look again, but we wrote a lot of flexibility into reuse of existing buildings, for instance, as opposed to somebody building something new. And I think there is quite a bit of flexibility with people who could take an existing building in an agricultural district and have the flexibility to do some commercial reuse of it.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that there's,
Sure.
there's quite a bit in it.
Anybody else have anything else in regards to cannabis law? Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Awesome.
well, we can
Thank
make
you.
these changes and send them back, and then I think you all may be ready for a public, when you get them, and if they're okay, I would suggest maybe then setting a public hearing.
We will set that Thursday
Oh, okay,
Okay.
great,
for
great.
next month.
Yep,
And,
okay. terrific.
Before we go, we had sent an email about a New York Planning Federation award that we would like to nominate on your behalf, but the comprehensive plan for an award from the New York Planning Federation as for an outstanding comprehensive plan, and that how it's that, but then it's also the zoning changes and the work that you all are doing right now, kind of to highlight it and bring some kudos to the town. We sent some draft language, I believe, over to the supervisor. It's
Yes.
due, the award is due at the end of this week. So it's simple, straightforward stuff, but I wanted to just throw that out there. We can check in again, tomorrow later, but yeah,
I
just
got it
bring that.
today. Taylor, I did get it today.
Okay, yeah. It's pretty straightforward, but yeah, just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, and just so you know, for background, every year, the New York Planning Federation gives out about 7 different awards. And when we looked at it, we spotted, a comprehensive plan one, and particularly one that's been done in the last 3 years. And, it's been implemented or followed up, and you followed up on zoning. So we thought it might be one where, Pine Plains might stand a chance at getting an award.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Okay.
Let's do it. I like it. Get some accolades out of this.
Probably not, but maybe get a grant.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay,
I move
bye-bye
to
now.
adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Awesome.
might zoom in on Thursday